Something fishy is going on in the United States of America, and you and your family need to be aware of it and, quite frankly, on alert about it. You see, right now, the internet is exploding with rumors and theories and all kinds of information regarding this massive uprising in ticks. Right? In fact, the CDC has just put out a report. I'm going to show you that right on the screen right now. The CDC has just put out a report saying there is a massive uptick in ER visits due to tick bites. And they're saying this has not happened in over a decade. So something is freaking going on here, because here's what we do know is that the World Health Organization and the United Nations and all these international global organizations have always had an agenda, right? One of those main agendas is to make humanity eat less meat. One of the things that they've actually entertained on this topic is, hey, let's, make people allergic to meat. And then up rises this little tick, the Lone Star tick, that you know what it does? It just so happens to make people allergic to meat. And what's weird, right? Here we are in 2026. We are now getting reports from the internet. They're not confirmed, by the way. These are rumors online that farmers are literally having helicopters, and they're getting it on video. I've got one video that I'm going to show you of dropping things and putting things near their property. Whether or not they're tick boxes, nobody knows. But needless to say, I think there is some questionable stuff that you guys need to be aware of about what's going on with this tick infestation. In fact, this is not something that our CIA hasn't been involved in before. In fact, the CIA was very involved in using ticks as a bioweapon. But before I get into that, I got to give a quick shout out to my sponsor. America's next battle isn't just on the battlefield, it's on the ground beneath our feet. Every jet, tank, missile, and drone depends on one critical metal in the United States that hasn't been commercially mined in our country for nearly a decade. I'm talking about tungsten, and right now, Washington is racing to fix that issue. You see, the Pentagon has already committed millions to restart domestic tungsten production, and new federal initiatives are already pouring in billions of dollars into securing our critical mineral supply. And why are they doing that? Well, because China still dominates global tungsten supply, and recent conflicts have exposed just how vulnerable we really are. And this is where Vault Strategic Mining comes in. Trading as KNXFF in the US and KNOX in Canada, Vault is assembling one of the most strategic tungsten portfolios in the United States. You see, their flagship Nevada project sits at a historic tungsten belt that once supported U.S. defense efforts during World War II. This isn't some kind of greenfield exploration. It's the revitalization of a proven American tungsten district. You see, Vault is positioned at the center of one of the biggest strategic resource shifts in decades. If you want to learn more about them, visit vaultstrategic.com or check out the link in the description box below. So what of this CIA using ticks as a bioweapon in our past? Well, I'm going to take you directly to a United Nations document. Look, because I like to use direct sources for you guys, documentation, proof, and evidence, so you guys can see it for yourself. This is not a conspiracy theory, okay? So this was published by the UN February 23rd, 2022, and it's the written statement submitted by the Planetary Association for Clean Energy and blah, 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 then a non-governmental organization and special consultative status. So this is something they just kind of put out, their human rights council. But here it goes on to state, emerging evidence reveals that the United States of America military conducted uncontrolled releases of pathogen-loaded ticks, and insects, and aerosolized tick-borne diseases both in and outside of the United States of America borders. And this could be contributing to the sharp increase in tick-borne disease illnesses around the world and worldwide. Gee, Wally, what happens when you drop ticks on people? They keep multiplying. But hey, here we go. It goes on to explain and expand on that. A CIA-funded operation where infected ticks were dropped from an airplane on Cuban sugarcane workers in 1962 to optimize pathogen and tick combinations for different climates and military objectives. Bioweapon researchers force-fed these ticks through little glass capillary tubes with agents like Q fever, and you can see all the different things that they were fed with. But this happened in 1962. Our CIA dropped it on Cuban sugarcane workers. Not a conspiracy. Let's look at some more stuff. How about an Army-funded university researcher who worked as a contractor to the U.S. of America, entomological warfare program released hundreds of thousands of radioactive ticks in Montana and on the Atlantic Bird Freeway from 1966 to 1969. Gee, I wonder if they're still doing stuff like that today. Let's go on. The discovery of the Lyme disease bacterium, Swiss-American scientist Willy Bergdorfer admitted that he worked in the U.S. biological weapons program and that he believed the original disease outbreak back in 1968 of these diseases, one of those being Lyme disease, right, was started by at a bioweapons facility in some kind of bioweapon-related accident. Oh, it was accidentally released on the population. That's why Lyme disease really didn't get a lot of attention for a while. I think because they wanted to keep it hush, hush. Who knows? But this is according to some whistleblower. Then you've got these. There are unconfirmed accounts. These are ones we're not sure of. I mean, some that, are just spoken of. And this is about them being used as weapons during the Korean War. And also unfounded reports of using mosquitoes, in Canada. So here, and this was back in 1954 and some other things. I guess the bottom line and the reason that I wanted to share some of this stuff with you is because, hey, if they did it before, and quite a few times, then who's to say they won't do it again? Right? After all, this is the World Health Organization's agenda. This was shared on the World Economic Forum website, and I want you to see it. I've played this before, but I want you to hear what he says. Take a listen. This was in Davos.
People eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering.
So we can do that through human engineering, engineer these ticks to make people allergic. And, obviously the tick was already alive and well at the time that he had made that. But alpha-gal syndrome is what is being given to people by these little ticks. In fact, the question is, when did alpha-gal syndrome suddenly come up? Because the World Economic Forum, the United Nations have all been, kind of on this agenda. We don't eat meat. The cows are farting. We're killing the planet. In order to save the planet, we all have to become allergic to meat, kind of an idea, right? And they're literally talking about engineering species to make that happen. Well, gee, I wonder if, any of that is connected, right? Because after all, alpha-gal syndrome, the syndrome that makes you allergic to meat, did not show up until the mid to early 2000s. Never, ever, ever. Linking the red meat allergy, it didn't begin into the early 2000s. Wow. So weird. So this alpha-gal syndrome, it's even listed, in all over the internet. You can look it up, but basically it gives you an allergy to meat. And there are people who are developing hives and everything regarding this Lone Star tick that comes to bite you, and it gives you this infection against meat where you just are allergic. So weird, the timing and coincidence of all of this. And hey, it's not like they've done it before. And then there's also this that I find a little bit fascinating. This is a this was on TFTC, right? Not familiar with the link there. But anyway, a peer-reviewed paper that was published last year in the journal Bioethics by two professionals at Western Michigan University of Medicine. They actually argue that it is morally obligatory, I can't say that word from Texas, I know how to say it, but moral obligation, right? To genetically engineer ticks to spread alpha-gal syndrome, a permanent condition that makes you violently allergic to red meat. And paper is actually titled Beneficial Blood Sucking. You can see a screenshot of the paper here. And their argument is this: if eating meat is morally wrong, then preventing the spread of a disease that forces people to stop eating meat is also morally wrong. Scientists should gene edit Lone Star ticks to enhance their ability to carry alpha-gal syndrome and expand their range into the urban environments to infect more people. And you can see 1966 in the image closest to my face here, not as many spread. And then you can see just, in 2026 how massively that has spread. This is going to be the entire country. And these ticks are all over, by the way. But these are organizations and papers out there literally vouching for humanity to engineer something to make us allergic to meat. And it seems like that's already been happening. At least that's according to the rumors. And then there's videos like this surfacing. And here's a video. This is just popping up on the internet. I'm not going to play it. I don't know how well you can see it, right? But I will leave a link below. But there's drops of black something, little groups of stuff being dropped from the sky in this video, and many are questioning even in this, are these the boxes of or bags or groups of ticks that they're just dropping on populations, on houses, on farmers' land? And here's another video, and this one's interesting. I'm going to play this one for you, but this is a landowner who is accusing a helicopter of doing something to their field. The lady's actually freaking out. She doesn't know what's going on, but they actually have a line dropped from their box.
I have no clue.
And I'm going to scroll in.
Top scale. Who the fuck?
Look at the line.
What are y'all doing? No, not you. Don't call us your fuck. Literally. In our top field. Oh, there they go.
And you're going to see the box in a minute. Look at that. Okay, very clearly there, you can see a box hanging from that helicopter. And the lady's in a panic if it didn't have the audio behind it, but she's saying, who the hell are they? And what the F are they in my field for? And what are they doing? This is my land. Now, there's reasons that they could be doing this, right? Number one, they could be surveying the land for an AI data center or something with having to do with the water, or if they're looking for aquifers. There are cases in which they can do that without the knowledge of the person on the property. And it's sad, but it's true in some cases, not all. There's speculations out there saying these are what the farmers are talking about. They're leaving ticks and stuff on the property. So those are videos and questions that are surfacing. And here's another video, by the way. I'll show you a small clip of this one. This is a farmer, reportedly a farmer, walking on his property, seeing a box of what he says is ticks.
Mushroom hunting, and I found, there it is right there, the tick box. I'm not going to touch it because there's ticks all over that thing.
And this is what they're saying they're finding. And then there's, this is a picture of a tick, and I'm not going to play the audio on this one. You can just watch it, but look how fast it's freaking running after people. I don't know why or what the case is, but that is just not normal. But it seems to be headed right in the person's direction. Interesting, to say the least. And then there's also this. This is a picture of a deer, and it's got all kinds of ticks, bugs. They're ticks is what they're reporting all over the deer. And if you actually go on social media, there is a lot of that, right? There's a lot of animals. There was even a snake that had a whole bunch of ticks on it. But needless to say, this isn't something that the CDC says isn't happening, as I showed you in the beginning of this report, and I'm going to show you again. There are, well, this one actually, CDC data showed that ER visits for ticks are higher than usual. In fact, the CDC has also published a number of how many people they believe have alpha-gal syndrome, and it's to the tune of hundreds of thousands. Nearly 450,000 people may be affected, and that is with specifically alpha-gal syndrome. These are numbers by our own CDC. And of course, it's all the normal players that want this kind of stuff to happen. The World Economic Forum, the global leaders, even Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Right now, they are funding research on genetically modified cattle ticks. Believe it or not, they're claiming that this is to protect livestock. That is their claim. And I don't believe them. That's my personal opinion, needless to say, but that is their claim. And anyway, then there's more and more uprisings of ticks. In fact, they're going to be headed to Canada. And how they know they're going to Canada? Who knows? So weird, right? CP24. A wave of ticks is headed for Ontario. Here's what one scientist says that you could do to protect yourself over the summer. So anyway, they are rapidly exploding in population. There's even a map that USA Today shared about where they're kind of the worst in some areas, and they're really all over, but there are many people being sent to the ER regarding all of that. Gee, Wally. So either way, I wanted you guys to be aware of all that. I'm sorry if you know anyone you love has alpha-gal syndrome. I'd love to have you comment in the section below if you do, but my heart goes out to anyone who has gotten bit by that. But the need is we all need to protect ourselves in light of what's going on, because I don't trust the government anymore. You know, back in the 1960s, they did experiment with releasing ticks. Who's to say it couldn't happen again? And maybe it's not our own government. Maybe it's not the U.S. government. Maybe it's some international organization or some freaking radical leftist that is doing it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of culprits, because there is this big movement by the left to make us all allergic to meat. And you can only imagine the repercussions of that going in the future. Who knows? Like it's like making everybody sick. It's insane. And some stupid idiot could be radical enough to do something like that. And bang, here we are. Ticks are all over the place. Anyhow, I can't wait to read your comments and concerns. As a reminder, get to restrictorrepublic.com. Justice Knight just put out a huge report there. Him and I are both on there. And the amount of stuff and what we say has to go on that platform. So please, it can't be here. They just get rid of it altogether. So go to Restrictor Republic and sign up today. You will not be disappointed. We share lots of information that we're not talking about anywhere else. Anyhow, with all of that, I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.